The movie begins at a funeral of an old school principal who had reached the end of his life. The person in charge of the funeral is a young and beautiful woman named Yunhwa. She is then approached and questioned by a reporter, who is suspicious of her identity. This is because the old principal was a terminal cancer patient. However, the strange thing is that the cause of his death was not cancer. And what is even more unbelievable is that the old man also left his entire fortune to Yunhwa. However, after trying to dig deeper, the reporter doesn't get any luck and he leaves. After the funeral, the reporter goes to find Yunhwa again, where she is seen to be living in a huge mansion by herself. After much persuasion, Yunhwa starts sharing the story of how she met the old principal. Yunhwa was a caregiver and she was hired by a lonely man, called Jong-sub, to take care of him. During their first encounter, Jong-sub informs Yunhwa that he was already in the late stages of cancer and is going to pass on very soon. So he wants to live a peaceful life and wants Yunhwa to take care of his every need until then. Yunhwa agrees to this. However, as the days follow, Jong-sub can be seen being mean toward Yunhwa's care. He easily gets mad when the food is not to his liking and would ask her to massage him for long hours. Later that night, Jong-sub gets a nightmare and wakes up from his sleep. After he does, he sees Yunhwa asleep instead of watching over him. He gets mad and takes a glass of water and throws it at her to wake her up. However, she doesn't get mad and the old man goes back to sleep. As more days pass, Yunhwa gradually figures out the likes and dislikes of Jong-sub and he slowly becomes more lenient toward her, and the two of them start becoming closer. One night, Jong-sub brings Yunhwa to a reunion party, and one of Jong-sub's friends volunteers Yunhwa to go on stage to sing a song. The song then captivates Jong-sub, and on their way home, he gets curious and starts asking Yunhwa where she had learned the song from, as the song used to be his wife's favorite. She then reveals that it was taught to her by her ex-boyfriend, who had died some time ago. The next day, while Yunhwa was giving Jong-sub a pedicure, he starts talking about his lost son and mentions to Yunhwa that he was about the same age as her when passed away. He then goes on to ask Yunhwa why is she here taking care of him when she could be spending her youth somewhere else. However, she doesn't give him a good answer and says she is just following the path set out for her. The next day, Jong-sub suffers a painful episode from his illness and starts screaming in anguish. Yunhwa quickly knocks on his door to help. However, he asks her to prepare his suit instead and ignores her help. After his pain subsides, Yunhwa passes him his suit and he then asks her to go to a photo studio to collect a photo. However, when she receives the photo, she realizes that Jong-sub was going to end his own life. Fortunately, she manages to hurry back just in time before anything terrible happens. Yunhwa then pleads for Jong-sub to carry on living. At this moment, Jong-sub realizes he had someone to live for now. As days pass, the two start growing closer together, and Jong-sub slowly becomes happier. One day, while Jong-sub was organizing photos of his wife and son, he starts telling Yunhwa that everyone he has ever loved always ends up leaving him one by one, and he reveals that he is afraid Yunhwa will do the same. However, she reassures him that she has nowhere to go and always be by his side. She then diverts the conversation by asking him about his son in the photo. Jong-sub tells her that his son was a very filial man, and he was taken away in a car accident and left the world too young. The next day, Yunhwa accompanies Jong-sub for a medical checkup, but shockingly, the doctor tells them that Jong-sub's cancer cell has miraculously stopped spreading, and instead of having 6 months to live, he now has 6 years. The doctor concluded that some patients start to live longer after being more positive about life. While heading back, Jong-sub can be seen smiling and he can't help but thank Yunhwa for everything by holding her hand. As days follow, Jong-sub starts showing more affection toward Yunhwa by bringing her to expensive dinners. During dinner, she advises him not to drink so much as he is still sick. But the elated Jong-sub ignores her and ends up drunk. In his drunk state, he tries to get frisky with Yunhwa, but she manages to stop him. The disappointed Yunhwa then leaves the house, leaving Jong-sub alone. The movie then cuts back to the present, with the reporter leaving Yunhwa's house. He then goes on to investigate more on Yunhwa and soon finds out that Yunhwa used to be an escort at a nightclub before she was a caregiver. She left her job at the nightclub after her boyfriend passed away. This left the reporter confused. Desperate to know the truth, the reporter goes to find Yunhwa again and he stumbles on a photo of a man whom he found familiar. He asks Yunhwa about him, but she brushes it off by asking him to stay for dinner. During dinner, the reporter blatantly asks Yunhwa if she had anything to do with the old man's death. Yunhwa doesn't answer his question well and instead pours him some wine. She then goes on to tell him more about her past with the old man. After the rejection by Yunhwa that night, Jong-sub starts being mean to Yunhwa again, and he slowly starts falling sick once more. However, despite Jong-sub's nasty attitude toward Yunhwa, she still continues to look after him, but this time, she does so by wearing revealing clothes and seducing him from time to time. Back to the present, Yeonhwa abruptly stops the story and decides to tell the reporter another story of the night she met her boyfriend instead. It was at the nightclub she worked then and he was a guest. However, he was very different from the other excited men there. He was shy and quiet. Yeonhwa starts taking an interest in him as he was not like the others. Later that night, Yeonhwa suffers a headache outside the club, and her crush sees this and offers her some medicine. She laughs at him and calls him adorable. He then takes her out to supper and the two soon get into a relationship. Back to the present again, the reporter somehow spends the night in Yeonhwa's home after he got drunk from all the wine he drank. He soon finds Yeonhwa crying in the shower. She reveals some dark past she had gone through and then goes on to tell him that she didn't murder the old man and says that she is innocent. The reporter starts feeling bad for her, and the two soon end up holding hands with each other. After a night of holding hands, the reporter wakes up to find Yeonhwa not around, and comes across an old news article about Yeonhwa's boyfriend. He then recalls that Yeonhwa's boyfriend is actually the son of the old man, and that her boyfriend didn't really pass away in a car accident, but instead took his own life after a traumatic experience. The reporter, now even more intrigued, starts to investigate further, and he realized that Yeonhwa had been making love-inducing potions and had spiked both his and the old man's drinks when he was alive. The movie then cuts back to the past, and we see Jong-sub trimming his beard. He then takes out a ring and puts it on a sleeping Yeonhwa. However, she rejects his proposal and starts acting cold toward him. Jong-sub then offers his house and all his money to her just so she will accept his marriage, but she rejects them and leaves. Later that night, Yeonhwa returns home, and Jong-sub continues begging for her love. This is when Yeonhwa reveals that she is actually his dead son's girlfriend, and she is here to get revenge on him. Turns out, the cause of Yeonhwa's boyfriend's passing was due to his own father's hatred. After finding out his son was dating an escort, his father decides to hire some of Yeonhwa's ex-special clients and gets them to hold hands with her while his son watches the carnal sin. This drives him mad and he jumps onto a moving car, leaving Yeonhwa destroyed. After learning the truth, Jong-sub falls to the ground in shock and Yeonhwa goes to her room and smirks an evil grin. The next day, Jong-sub asks Yeonhwa for a shower and after that, he takes his own life, while Yeonhwa starts weeping in her room. Next, we see Yeonhwa at a train station, also wanting to end her life. But she is saved by the spirit of Jong-sub and the child spirit of her ex-boyfriend. The spirit of Jong-sub then tells her that he bears no grudge against her and tells her to live the remainder of her life to the fullest. The movie ends with the ghosts of Jong-sub and her ex-boyfriend waving at her on a train. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you do not miss our next video.